So could it be that these women aren't looking in the right places? Well, here to discuss this topic with me is Karen Langhorne-Folan, author of Don't Bring Home a White Boy and Other Notions That Keep Black Women from Dating Out, and artiste Christine Frizzou. Thank you ladies both so much for joining me. So Karen, I want to start with you. 42% of successful single black ladies, aren't obviously finding a partner. And I know that you are married to a white guy, and today is your anniversary. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And so you wrote this book saying that, maybe other women should follow your lead and consider dating outside the race. Explain that to me.
Well, the statistics show that there are many more black men who are choosing to look at partners outside of the race than black women. The book that I wrote was sort of examining why there's that cultural resistance, why it is black women are much more hesitant to pursue interracial relationships. And I found that there were about 10 notions that black women hear or have taken in that keep them from pursuing partners outside the race. So I took those notions and I re-examined them and reframed them as a way of saying, hey, look, ladies, this is a viable option for us. This is something that we should think about. That we can overcome these notions and make other men our possible mates.
And so what's one of the biggest ones? Do you think black women are kind of seen as sellouts who maybe look outside the race or something like that?
Race betrayal is definitely one of them. You will definitely hear comments that somehow by marrying outside the race, marrying white in particular, that you are less black and that you have sold out in some way. I think that's absolutely crazy because I really feel like black encompasses so many different ways of being in America that how could you ever not be black? For example, Michelle Obama is a black woman, but there are also black women competing for the affections of Ray J on, various TV shows, and they're just two different spectrums of black womanhood. So the idea that there's some way that you can avoid your blackness by marrying a spouse of a different race is just crazy to me.
And so, Christine, I want to bring you into the conversation. From the ladies that you spoke with in your story, what were some of their reasons why they wanted to find a black man specifically?
Well, Priya, in addition to the women in this story, I also spoke to various other women on the phone and did a lot of research on this. And including the women in the story, one in their 20s, one in their 30s, they say that they specifically are willing to give it a try, at least go on a date. I think both of them have gone on at least 1 or 2 dates with people of a different race. The problem is when you bring it into the family mix, when you say, okay, I'm dating somebody seriously, time to bring them home to mom and dad, time to introduce them to my grandmother. That's when you start getting into issues of, gosh, I know my family's going to freak out about this.
And so one thing I want to ask both of you ladies about is it seems like the statistics show that interracial marriage is more common with a black man and a white woman. About 75% of interracial marriages happen that way. Why do you think that is? Karen, let's start with you.
I think men are kind of the pursuers anyway, and I think that there's been a whole lot more interest there. I think our culture celebrates sort of a very Eurocentric idea of beauty. That's part of the reason right there. I think there's probably, one older black man said to me, it's revenge. I mean, that's probably true in some cases. There's a bunch of different things going on there. And the converse is true for black women. It's sort of the idea that how can you, after the history, make that decision? But the fact of the matter is, if we look at what's happening right now within the black community, there's violence possible everywhere. There's battery possible everywhere. There's rape possible everywhere. Right now in 2010, you're more likely as a black woman to be abused by another black man. So if we're going to look at it that way, you have to kind of just look at the man's character. You have to look at every partner or potential partner for what they offer as an individual.
And Christine, did you hear anything from talking to the women that you spoke with?
I think based on what I found, it was more statistics based. It was more when you look for a partner, when you look for friends even, you look for people who you have something in common with. And for these women and so many other women, finding an educated black man, finding a successful or motivated black man seemed to be a little harder just based on the numbers. From what they said, there were fewer to choose from. I guess I'm curious too, and maybe I'll just ask you, when you first met your now husband, what the reaction was. Was it mixed, positive?
The reaction was a little bit cool at first. I think, as I said, the title of my book is Don't Bring Home a White Boy, and it's because there is certainly a little bit of that in the community still, sort of a resistance to that. Now it's fine. It's fine. But I think there was a moment or two there where there was some hesitation. I had dated all over the spectrum before, though, so my family was prepared for that.
And Christine brought up a great point about the education levels, and we talked about the incarceration levels with black men. That black women are more likely to have a higher education than black men. Sorry. So what you're saying can be seen as controversial by many. It's
Sure.
in a way kind of saying, you know what, maybe you should just give up on black men, right? Or
I don't know that that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, though, that maybe we need to examine common ground differently. I don't think that race necessarily makes for common ground. I think the high black divorce rate speaks to that. So I think maybe we have to look at common ground as education in part, as having common interests, as having common values, and work from there. And I actually think that's going to be better for our society, too, because right now we're still caught in our kind of black and white diatribe in this country, when, to be honest, there's a whole world out there that does not care about this, and we all need to be more a part of that.
well, I want to thank you guys both for joining in our discussion.